We are finally at the end of the day. If you have been rocking with us all day long, then you know every single session there has been not only a challenge that you are going to be doing because you are going to join the community and you will be doing those challenges live and living color with the rest of us, but there have been tools, there have been resources. I said it from the beginning, this is not just a talking head summit. That is not what this is. Nothing wrong with those, but this ain't that. This summit has been packed full of actionable tools that you can immediately implement. We are not out in the deep end for this one. This one, we are in the shallow end. So there is no excuse as to why you cannot pick up what you need and run and soar and grow from there. So I am here with the illustrious Charreah Jackson. How are you? Oh, okay. I saw the energy. It was the illustrious, wasn't it?
It really was. Yes, the illustrious Sheree. I'm just playing, girl. I'm doing well. Great to be here. Hey, God Value Nation family. Good to be here.
I am super excited to have you here. It's amazing to me every single time I hear you speak or learn more about your story and all the things that not only you've overcome, but that you have triumphed over, that you have literally excelled at. It makes me smile because it reminds me that there is never a reason for you to doubt yourself. And the story that you tell yourself will always determine how far you will go, how fast you will get there, and what you'll feel like once you enter into those spaces that you hoped for, that you prayed for, and that you have worked for. So, this particular conversation is one that I am extremely excited about because it is the power in your story. And your story is one literally for the books. It is literally one for the books in that and of course we know no story is perfect, right? I totally get it. And life will sometimes throw all of its things at you, the baby, the bath water, just all the things. And the stories that we sometimes tell ourselves can be stories of defeat, and that can make your circumstances feel even heavier because you're constantly recycling a story to yourself that makes you feel worse. And before age 25, you had experienced cancer, you had gotten laid off, you had discovered that you were the other woman in a relationship that you thought you were the main woman. And so, how did you find the will to be willing to not only shine again, but what did it look like to begin to rebuild yourself and tell yourself a different story?
Well, at first, so happy to be here. And when you talk about that, right, some of my early falls, and I mean, I've had, several other mountains I've had to climb since then. And so when you talk about redefining your story, it was the only option I had to still play full out and have the life I dreamed about, because we're told to define ourselves by external things. And so to have external validation, external status taken away from me at a young age, I'm so grateful for it. I don't wish cancer on anybody. I don't wish layoffs on anybody. I don't wish finding, being with unscrupulous people and dating with on anybody. And yet I know each knock, each thing that what people will call plot twist in my story have been the times where I've had to face fully and come off of my automatic, come off of my cute brunch, kiss self and say, wow, who are you really when the things that you might want to define yourself by are taken away? And so that in the earliest of those knocks being diagnosed with cancer at 19, it was a time most people think young people feel invincible. You feel on top of the world. And yet here I am at 19 having to think about dying. And because I had to think about dying at a young age, I actually have lived my life with much more purpose, have achieved more of my dreams than most, because I'm not afraid to acknowledge, wow, tomorrow is not promised. And so I live my life fully in the moment I'm in, fully playing full out, because I am clear. So sometimes people say, oh my gosh, Sharia, you're so confident. And I say, actually, I get nervous. I get afraid. So it's not that I'm more confident than most people. I'm just more clear than most people of the gift that life is. So I play full out because I don't take a day of my life for granted.
Whew. Okay, so you didn't. Let me get my notepad. Clearly, I wasn't ready. I know y'all weren't ready either. Make sure you have your pen and paper. You are going to need it for this particular session because we are literally making the time matter. It is time for us to not only own our power, but to actually use our power to intentionally build lives that feel as good as they look. And you have already gotten us good and started.
Okay, can I shout you out though, real quick?
Of course.
I just want to honor when you talk about honoring our time. I think about what a special time in your life it is. So happy birthday. You literally are broadcasting on your actual birthday, celebrating yourself and literally paying the gift of life forward. That on some a special time where we're here to celebrate you, you're like, well, I want to shine a light and celebrate everyone who comes across this incredible opportunity and this summit. So if you are in the summit right now, don't keep it to yourself. Click that like button, click that share button, put some comments in the chat so Alicia knows who's engaging with this content because this is powerful. And this is an example of what does it mean to take response, pick up the pen and write your own story. So for me, those early setbacks taught me, wow, I can't wait on somebody else to decide how my life gets to be. I have to decide. When you go into work one day and you walk out the same day without a job, it wakes you up early to say, wow, I cannot be dependent on a company. I cannot be dependent on a person to decide how my life gets to be. So that radical self-control, that radical responsibility leads to opportunities like this where you say, how do I want to celebrate my birthday? Well, I'm a host of summit.
Yes. Exactly. It is understanding that you really are powerful beyond belief. I remember when after I had decided and I was introduced to the one thing I had been missing my entire life, which was purpose. Because before then I had planned to take my life. December 2012, I decided January 2013 I was going to take my life. I felt I was worth more dead than alive to my child and that I had nothing to offer her. I was not creative, that God gave me no gifts. And when I think about that now, I'm like, if folks would just give themselves a little bit more time,
Hmm.
because if I had stopped my clock in January of 2013, I would have never discovered how incredibly creative I am, how many gifts that I had been given, how much I had to offer to the world because I did not sit in it. And I was trying so hard to shield myself and my family and those I love and who cared about me from the really terrible parts of my story, that I was in an abusive relationship and that I did have low self esteem and that I had done some things that I wasn't super proud of. And so that urge to shield ourselves from the more challenging parts of our stories, whether it's because of shame or fear or even that pain, it can cause us to shrink. And anyone knows, anytime you get the shrunken version of something, it usually is not the best at it. But now you are a master. I told y'all, extraordinaire. You are the master at showing leaders and even organizations how to increase their impact by being a lot more visible. And that means by sharing your story, sometimes even the shadowy parts. But what are the first steps to becoming comfortable with that visibility? Because I know it took me years to be able to say, yeah, I was married to, someone who we brought out the absolute worst in each other. And I did do some things that I wasn't super proud of. Now I can say that without any shame behind it, but it takes time to get there. So, what are the first steps to get comfortable with that?
Well, as you know, as someone who's been on the journey to allow yourself to be more vulnerable. So we run a platform. My company is Shine Army. We run a platform called Scene Leader. You can go to sceneleader.com, get our free shortcuts to show up and be seen and be more visible. And to your point, so often leaders we encounter will come and say, well, I don't feel comfortable. They feel nervous about more visibility because they feel nervous that they will be judged more. And a lot of us have unprocessed pain where we have felt judged in the past from showing up and being seen. And so we stay giving our power away to people who weren't our assignment anyway, right? So I often, when I'm talking to leaders and we dig out what was that original time that it didn't feel safe for you to be seen. And sometimes I was a cheerleader at school. It was all these different experiences that people have where they felt like it was not safe to be seen. And so now they're still in reaction to that past experience, not realizing it is literally robbing them of the life they were meant to have. And more importantly, we've all been through something. And so it's when we take what makes us feel vulnerable and allow it to be visible, we realize we are more alike than different. And so even for
Yes.
me in my bio to talk about some of the challenges I've overcome, I remember when Steve Harvey read that part of my bio you just talked about with before 25, and he like, Lord. And in that moment, I became a real person. And so,
Yes.
in particular, leaders and entrepreneurs. So, when you are honest with your teams, it allows them to connect with you. Look
Yes.
at the 2020 election. Look at our current president, Joe Biden. And what he did was extraordinary, where instead of hiding the fact that, you know what, I used to stutter, he highlighted it and said, I'm more like you. And had a little boy who had a stutter come on to the Democratic National Convention and share and connect with people. So it is through our story and our transparency, because breaking news, y'all, we all got stuff. We all been through
All of us.
something.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you allow yourself to fully be human and just breathe, you allow other people to feel more comfortable with you in their presence. So
Yeah.
even for the speakers, I've booked more speaking when I've become more honest around my highs and my lows. When I've talked about, you know what, it hasn't always been easy,
Mm.
because we all are doing our best. So you either in a storm, coming out of a storm,
We're about
or
to
on
go
your
in
way.
one.
And so we've all been through. You don't make it through this life. No one makes it out untouched. No one makes it out unscathed. No one makes it out without going through some mountain they've had to climb. And if you did, you're lying.
You are lying if you did. Now you could say it, and we gonna let you. Okay, we gonna let you live in whatever the Lulu land you want to live in, because who am I to decide what your experience has been? And also, since no one is making it out without getting touched in some way, you might as well own the parts of your story that you feel you should hide.
And can I add one more thing? It's
Absolutely.
often through the challenges we most have encountered, the areas where we've been cut, that we have the most power and insight to heal. So the best healers are often people who've been wounded, right? The
Yeah.
best coach is someone who has lost some games and is able to give you insight, not just always winning, who's been on the low and come back up. And so even for
Mhm.
me to have a company around visibility, to support leaders, I had to know what it felt like to feel invisible, to be
Mhm.
able to have a career for the last 20 years where I've specialized in helping myself and others be visible. And so I take pride in what is now the light, because it's only through shadow that we truly experience and enjoy light. We need the contrast and the context. So a lot of times when we're running away from honoring the pain we've endured, when we're running away from our full story, we're also often running away from our purpose.
Ma'am, ma'am, get us together. Oh my goodness. In every single one of these, and while you were speaking, it literally said, oh no, this is the challenge. That is what I heard clear as day. So in every single one of these, while you dynamic leaders and humans are speaking, I am picking out a challenge. And at the end of this, inside of the community, inside of gotvaluenation.com, make sure you go to www.gotvaluenation.com. We are literally listing out every single challenge that we pulled out in these particular sessions. And the one that just came to mind as you were speaking is I want y'all to go ahead and get another piece of paper and pen out. And you can even use your phone if that's what you prefer, or your iPad or your laptop, whatever you want. And I want you to write out the story that you have not yet told. Write out that one, not the one that everybody knows. Write out the story that you have not yet talked about. And then at the end of it, because here's the thing, you don't want to also bleed on people, but you do want to write at the end of it, what was the resolution? How did you overcome? If let's say you haven't overcome yet, how are you working to overcome? And if let's say
Yes.
you are not working to overcome, what are you going to do to begin to start working to overcome? So nobody gets to escape that one either. The person who hasn't started, the person who has started and still working through it, and the person who has overcome. Write out the story that you have been afraid to share, because you just said it. You said it's many times that one that cut you the deepest, that is the one that is most tied and connected to your purpose, because that's where you can effectuate the most change. When I discovered my purpose, it was through a young woman named Naomi. Naomi was a foster kid who had aged out of foster care. And on the outside, she looked like walking death. And I've told her this. She is fully aware. We have had many of these conversations, so she is okay with me sharing her story. She looked how I felt. On my outside, things were great. I had a brand new home. I drove a luxury vehicle. My ex husband was fine as frog hair. My daughter was this brilliant little 2 year old, vibrant little girl. I had 3 promotions in 1 year, so I was making more money than I ever imagined I would make. I had made more money in a year than my mother had made in 10 years. That's how much, income I was bringing in at that point. But I felt like walking death. I felt it. She looked it. I hadn't told a soul how I was feeling. When I met her and I asked her, and I don't even know why I asked her, I do know it was divine. Absolutely. That was a God move because I had no intention on doing any of that. And I asked her, "Hey, can I help you?" She looked at me and she's like, "Well, what do you want?" And I said, Listen, I'm a project manager in my professional life. I'm really, really good at helping people get from a point in their head to a place in their hand. And you look like you might need you some help. If you let me, I would love to help you." And then I started sharing with her the story that I hadn't told a soul about my experience with domestic violence and everything that I knew she was experiencing because her hand was bandaged up. Her boyfriend at the time had thrown her through a glass window. I knew what it was because we were experiencing the same thing, but I hadn't told a soul. In telling her what I was experiencing, she introduced me to purpose, and that in turn saved my life. So I want you to do that challenge because you never know whose life you could be saving by honoring your story. Oh, girl, this is good. This is so good. So one of my favorite quotes is the man who thinks he can and the man who thinks he can't, they're both right. And the stories that we tell ourselves is what matters the most. But what are some tools that you would suggest, especially with them having to do this challenge, that you would suggest that we use to create stories that empower us versus stories that shift our focus from our goals because they deflate us?
Oh, it's so good. First of all, we can't, my whole business and life sits on what you just talked about, right? And our company stands on two words, right? Truth transforms. That when we
Mm,
experience new knowledge, we're able to access new experiences which change our lives. And one of the biggest problems is often we tell ourselves a story and we believe it's the story.
yes.
And so we make up a story about the experience.
Mm,
So my dad didn't come home, so the story becomes, well, since I wasn't good enough, we add in our 2 cents. And
yeah.
so what you're talking about is one of the radical ways you quickly up level your life and up level and release the past is, how do I have a fresh interpretation of any story? And it is, I do this personally. It has changed my life and career, to your point, to be able to, anytime I am not feeling my best, I say, what's the story I'm telling myself? And
Mm,
so some of the tools are to separate what is my truth, what am I calling the truth, what is a belief
yep.
versus what is a fact.
Mm.
And so anytime you want to change your life, sometimes we unravel the story we made up about the experience and the fact. Because and often all of our power will come from inside. And so often the people, as someone who sat at tables with multiple billionaires, including sitting in Oprah Winfrey's backyard, every high level, high impact leader I've encountered, this is a tool they are masterful at. They
Yes.
are masterful at empowered interpretations of their own story. I remember sitting in Oprah's backyard and I asked her, if you grew up in a house that had a bathroom inside of the house where you lived, you grew up better than Oprah. She grew up in Mississippi with an outhouse. And I'm
Outhouse.
sitting in her backyard on a 65-acre in Montecito, California. And I'm like, you went from there to here. How did you not lose yourself in that? And she said simply, I did the work. I
Mm,
did the work. She also said I stayed present. I stayed present in this moment. So
mhm,
in order to get from Mississippi to Montecito, she had to let go of the Mississippi, got an outhouse mindset. She had to give herself permission to pick up the pen and turn the page and write the next chapter, which means I have to close out and be complete with what I've been through.
mm. Ma'am, I am getting goosebumps the more you speak. This is exactly why I had to have you close this summit. I knew. I knew, and my spirit and the Lord both said, "Nah, this is the you called you by your name. You don't have any idea how you are. I already know you are helping folks to transform and change. So I have to, and it's one more that I just one more question I want to slide in and ask you, but I have to say thank you because the light that you are is unmatched. I don't even have the true words yet to describe just who you are and the light that you are in the world. I am just grateful for you being willing to give me your time because I do not take that lightly. Time is the only thing that we can never get back. And so for you to share your time with me, I truly am grateful. And as we are closing out, the question that I want to ask, because too many people allow fear to rule and run the game instead of living a love-based life where they are basing their decisions, their actions based in the love that they have for themselves, the love that they have for their purpose, and the love that they have for their life and the gift that is life. They allow fear to lead and take over. So, how can we, because getting rid of fear is not something I believe many people or even any person will truly be able to do, but you can be afraid and still take a step. So, how can we catalyze the fear of owning and sharing our story in order to transmute it into power? Like, if is there a step? Is there a process? Is there a whatever? Is there something that we can do to transmute that fear into the catalyst for power for us?
Yes. I think of Elizabeth Gilbert, the writer of Eat, Pray, Love. She also has another book of, I want to call it Big Magic. I can't remember her other book about creative, but she talks about fear in that book. And it just came to my mind. She said, a lot of times what you're talking about is so often think of a car and you're on a road trip and people let fear drive.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't want you to think that you get to high levels of success and fear is out the car. It's not. It's just not driving.
Yeah.
So you start with putting it in the passenger seat and not letting it touch the radio. And then you put it in the back seat and then you put it in the trunk
Yeah.
and you take authority. And so what you're asking about is, and then and I talk to my fear. When I feel nervous or afraid, I don't act like I'm not afraid. I just talk to the fear. Well, what about it makes you, I get curious.
Yeah.
What you nervous about? What you afraid of? And once you really dig down, you'll often find it's your little self, right? It's
Mm.
usually your 7-year old self who's afraid. So
Yeah.
it's time for we talk my adult self. Sometimes I still get afraid and I go talk to little me. Hey, I got you. I'm a big girl now. I remind myself of my power. I remind myself of everything I've done. Something that just fell on my heart in this conversation, and particularly on your birthday, is the power of new beginnings. How many
Mhm.
people celebrate a new birthday and aren't willing to give themselves permission of a new chapter and a hit reset? And
Yeah.
so I had a radical reset in my life. We met when I was living in New York,
Yep.
working in media. I worked at the largest magazine publisher where I was a senior editor for a decade. And I had this glamorous life. And to your point, it looked good on the outside. And I knew there was more for me. And so
Yeah.
I hit a radical reset where I said, enough. And I burned out and I moved back to my hometown of Atlanta with no car and no job and said, I'm going to start it over. And I
Yeah.
want you to know what used to be my salary and take me a year to make. Within the first 6 weeks of this year, I had already made it. But I could not have told you that. And just today got a yes for a 270K leadership training contract with a federal agency.
You
And we're
better
just,
say that.
and I want you to know I could not tell you these results if I wasn't willing to be okay, to give myself permission to say, what do I want? What do I need, over trying to please people who weren't going to live my life. So I care more about being good and being happy and being willing to risk it than to stay safe in something that was suffocating. And so I just want to, for anyone who's, this is a time of celebration for you. Happy birthday to you. And y'all don't let Alicia be the only one who's getting a new beginning today.
Yes.
Any
We
day
all
can
can
be the
press reset. Oh, Listen, I know the people need to know. I want to know, how can we stay connected? I know you told us the site earlier. Let us know again where we can not only stay connected with you, but for folks who would like to learn how they want to become a member of the Shine Army too. Where do they go? How do they do it? Give us all the
Yes.
deets.
Yeah, so head on over to sceneleader.com where you can access our community, get our free downloads, come on in our Facebook group. We've got a free challenge coming up on June 3rd to the 6th, our boot camp. And if you go to sceneleader.com, you can get all the info and some of our free goodies there. And you can also follow me. You see that at Charreah. Follow me on IG. If you're watching, go ahead and take a picture. Hey, we cute. Take a picture and tag us on IG, and I'll be sure to. You'll see some resources there as well. But it's been an honor. I so appreciate you, my sister and my friend. And you are a courageous woman. One of my favorite Alicia memories. I'm taking a little permission. One of my I have a lot of favorite memories of you and your baby girl, who I got to babysit when she was little. And one of my favorite memories is seeing you jump off a cliff in Barbados last summer. Because I'm courageous, and I said I'm not that courageous yet. I'm gonna jump this summer is my goal. But I just want to say, keep jumping for all your goals, and we are in awe of you, and it is a privilege and pleasure to watch you play full out.
Oh, thank you. I told myself I was not going to cry, and I will not. But what I will say is for me, that jump in Barbados, and nobody knew how much I was going through. My mother had just had a stroke, so she was blind in one of her eyes. My money had just done, I mean, all the things. There was something major that happened, so my accounts went from where they were to well below the threshold that makes anybody comfortable. And I was trying to figure out how I was going to make it to the next month. So when I jumped off that cliff in Barbados, for me, it was symbolic of the trust that I had that no matter how far out I was going to go, I was always willing to take whatever risk I needed to take to ensure that my creator, because I believe in God, y'all can believe in whatever y'all want to believe in, but I believe in God, that my creator knew that no matter what position I was in, that I was going to trust. I was going to trust that if he brought me to it, he would bring me through it and everything would be all right, even if it meant that I lost what I thought mattered most to me at that time.
Mm.
So you were there standing next to me, literally holding the camera as I was taking so many of those images, capturing those moments. You and Lucinda Cross. Yes, the both of you both, just, I mean, what I gained from that trip and what I gained from that jump was so incredibly powerful, because for me it was a no, I trust you no matter what.
Amen. Mm.
So yeah, y'all, as we close out, I cannot say thank you enough. Make sure you stay connected with me all over everywhere at Alechia Reese. That's Alechia. Last name Reese, Reese. And if you are not a member of the Got Value Nation family, a part of our community, it is free. Go ahead, go to www.gotvaluenation.com. There are so many gems that you are going to learn. Again, I don't believe in talking heads. I believe in actual tools that we are going to be utilizing so that we can all grow, because it is only lonely at the top if you take no one with you, and we are taking folks with us. Okay? See you soon. Bye, y'all.